fellow romance readers, I'm Amy.
And I'm Sarah, and this is Post-Book Depression. You know that feeling you get when you finish a good book that you didn't want to end?
Have you finished a book and just weren't ready to move on from the story and its beloved characters? You find yourself needing just a little more? This multi-trope romance podcast gives you the opportunity to dig deeper with us into books we love as we discuss all the reasons we can't move on.
Feeling chatty? You can continue the conversation with us on Instagram at Post-Book Depression Podcast or on Facebook in our Post-Book Depression discussion group.
We would be so grateful if you would subscribe to our podcast and take a moment to leave a review.
Are you ready? Let's discuss.
Hi everyone, welcome to the show. I'm Amy.
And I'm Sarah, and today we're going to be discussing The Problem with Players by Brittainy Cherry.
The first few minutes, we're going to do a brief review of the story without any spoilers. Then we are going to shift into a deeper book discussion that's going to include lots of spoilers, but don't worry, we're going to let you know before we do shift into that deeper book discussion.
That's right, so before we dive in, Amy, tell us what the story is all about.
A baseball romance about a woman who is a high school team's coach, but is blindsided by the news that her ex-boyfriend, who is a retired professional baseball player, is taking on the role as her assistant. There's moments of heartbreak, laughter, and swoon-worthy behavior from the male main character. The story does have some heavy mental health elements, so check your trigger warnings. Sarah, what did you think about The Problem with Players?
Well, I love this story. We're huge fans of Brittainy Cherry, and this story for me just did not disappoint. I don't think I've read a baseball romance before.
I haven't.
It's like we've done all the other sports, I feel like, except for baseball. So I was here for that part of it. I love the second chance romance. I also love that it's a female head coach for a male sport. I really loved that aspect. I thought that was very interesting. And I love these characters. This is the second book in a series that you can kind of follow along the family. You don't have to.
Yeah, I haven't read the first one.
Yeah, I've read the first one, so I already had kind of this connection with this family. So I was already here for it. I love this family. I love this story. What did you think?
I also like the added element that it does start with a little bit of an enemies to lovers vibe, but it's the female main character that is hating on the male main character, has these harbored feelings of enemies to lovers vibes, which I really loved.
As women, as we cling to our grudges, no woman ever would do that.
No way. All right, let's get into our ratings. Angst.
Okay, angst. This was just a 1.25 for me.
I was close. I did 1.
Yeah, I just didn't feel like there was too much. Yeah, it's just not overly angsty.
It is definitely a drama, but I didn't feel like it was angsty at all.
Agreed.
All right, humor.
Humor. This was a 2.
I did 1.5.
Yeah.
We're close again.
Brittainy Cherry's funny. She has sprinkles of humor throughout, and so I always find those moments really delightful because
I do too.
Yeah, she can take a topic and it can be serious, but it doesn't feel heavy and weighed down. And I think it's because the sense of humor that she's able to write into it.
100% agree. Definitely. All right, spiciness.
Spiciness. This was the 2.
2 for me.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I liked it.
I thought it was very tastefully done.
It was.
Well done,
She
Brittainy.
always does a great job.
All right, tears.
Okay, tears. This was a 2.5 for me.
Okay.
There's, I did cry in this story. There are some things that the characters kind of deal with, and there's some things that happen that just break your heart for this character. And yeah, I did cry.
I was a little lower than you. I did 1.5, and it's more about the sadness of the mental health issues that the character deals with than me having actually cried tears. It was just kind of the overall sadness just that kind of correlates with the story for me.
There's some things that she kind of deals with throughout that she's held on to her whole life. And when she brings this part up in the story, I cried. That's where I cried.
That's fair.
Anyway, moving on.
All right, overall.
No spoilers.
Overall,
it was a 4.25 for me.
Me too.
I love this story. It was so good.
It was great. I loved the baseball elements to it as well. Just overall, it was a great story. That concludes the spoiler-free quick review of this story. Now we're going to shift into a deeper book discussion that's going to include lots of spoilers. If you haven't read this story, go check it out and then come back and join us in our deeper discussion. We would also love to connect with you on social media. You can find us on Instagram at Post-Book Depression Podcast, on Facebook in our Post-Book Depression discussion group, and you can also email us at postbookdepressionpodcast@gmail.com. Sarah, this story has one of the cringiest opening scenes that I've read in a long time. It opens with Avery hiding in the bathroom. They have a technology ban. They're getting ready to have a friend night with her fiance Wesley's friends. She's meeting all of them for the first time. And she's a major sports fanatic. And this is the Super Bowl night. And she is a technology band.
This is stupid. Well, that wasn't her fault. That was his fault.
I know.
Let me tell you something. Listen, if your significant other is a coach for their profession, what are you doing?
You've got to expect some sports.
Technology, like the Super Bowl. Okay, listen, I don't care for football, not because I don't like it, but I just don't understand it.
Yeah.
If it's playing, I'm not going to understand really what's happening.
Same.
But I'm going to watch for the entertainment. I still want to be a part of the party. I just thought this was absurd. And I was right there with her. I would have been hiding in that bathroom looking up what's happening.
Looking up what's happening.
Yeah, but the fact that he calls her out and then takes her phone.
It's
rude.
I don't like you.
I know. I don't like this guy. He needs to go away. Wesley.
And we learn about he's got 3 friends coming over. He's talked about all of them. One of them, his best friend, who's named Drew. We learn when they walk through the door that Drew is a woman, Sarah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this moment.
This was not a good moment for him. And I just can't even believe that it would not occur to him.
The fact that he was oblivious.
That he did not, which...
Was he? Was he really? I don't know.
I don't really think so because they do a lot of really icky stuff that I'm like, well, if you're dumb, okay. He's so smart that he's stupid, because he does really stupid stuff. You're like, you're an idiot. Yeah, I don't know so much that if it was on his end that he was that oblivious, Drew was not.
Drew definitely knew what she was doing. They played charades, and this whole scene just had ick all over it. I loved when she got the opportunity to slide out to go get more drinks because it gave her an out to check the scores while she's at this store and also sees Nathaniel, her ex. This is our introduction to him, and we get major beef vibes. She does not like him.
She's not happy to see him.
At all.
Between Drew and Nathaniel coming into town,
she's having a bad day.
She's having a bad day. She can't watch the Super Bowl, all these things. I do have to say, I relished when she kind of tells them, those are not the rules.
I was with her.
Girl, hello.
Immediately when she started talking, I thought, that's not how you play charades.
I know. Well, it made me mad that he was like defending, well, we can make our own rules. And she's like, that's literally the point of the game. And listen, I'm not overly competitive.
Oh, I am.
I'm a little competitive, but not like over. Like, I enjoy winning. Guys, rules are rules, okay?
Yeah.
And there are some games that you can kind of change up the rules a little bit and be lax. This is not one of them.
Very epitome of charades.
Yeah.
No speaking.
Yeah. I loved it when she called her out on that and then left. It made me very happy.
Me too. Let's talk about Avery and Wesley. I know that we have briefly mentioned that they are 2 very different people, but we're starting to get the vibe. They've been together for 3 years. They're engaged to be married very soon. Already, as a reader, you're getting the understanding that this is not going to work out. Well,
yeah. There's a lot of just red flags, too, in this relationship. And there's things that I just kept thinking, ooh, you're like, 2 weeks out from your wedding? And he's sleeping on the couch? That's not good.
No.
And the fact that he didn't even understand her point of view of why she was so angry that he didn't convey to her that Drew was a woman.
Kind of a really big lie by omission.
Oh, huge. Especially because he talks to Drew all the time.
And he knows. Yeah, he knows that her assumption is that Drew is a man. So the fact that he omitted and never clarified that for her, oof, I did not like that.
I didn't either. Well, and later on, he just thinks, well, you wouldn't get it. You wouldn't understand. And Drew said, and I thought, ooh, if you are beginning any argument or discussion with
to
her,
defend
Drew and say anything about how you had a conversation with Drew and Drew said she just doesn't understand. Oof.
Not good, bro. We learned that Avery is a coach at a high school for baseball. They've never won. They've never had a winning game, Sarah. So I can understand where there would be some expectation from the faculty there for some changes to be made. And
there was changes. Though. In her defense, she was assistant coach and the head coach retired.
Yes.
So there was a change.
There was a change, and they didn't really give her an opportunity to prove that her being the main coach is going to lead to success. So I felt very badly for her in the sense that they didn't have the confidence in her as a coach to be the main coach and felt the need to bring in a new coach. This whole situation we learn where Nathan comes in to take over as the new coach, where her boss didn't. There's a whole miscommunication here all the way around. They deceived her. They
intentionally, not Nathaniel.
Yes, correct. This is her boss. Let's talk about this scene and how Nathan found out about that and what he does about it.
So when she goes in and thinks that she is meeting the new coach that's coming on, because she's kind of blindsided by that a little bit as well, and then finds out that she is not going to be the head coach, even though she's been given this position, that they are giving this to Nathan, who is not her favorite person.
Her least favorite person at that.
And I just could not stand the principal's reaction, her boss, that didn't want her to overreact. He's just, we wanted to avoid this. We didn't say anything until now because we wanted to avoid her overreacting. She's kind of a hothead. Avery, you know how you get. I didn't like how people kept saying those phrases to her. And I kind of thought, well, if you guys would stop putting her in situations where she would have the need to fly off the handle, then...
Right.
I mean, she does have that about her personality. It's written that way. But still, some of those circumstances are justifiable, in my opinion. And this was one of them.
Yes.
But I also love that when she leaves... Nathan addresses him and acknowledges, like, I thought she was aware of the fact. And he said, well, it just looks good. You're coming from Major League Baseball. You could do a lot with this team, all this stuff. And he says, I never would have taken this position. And now he's trying to...
You railroaded her. And he didn't like that at all. And I loved that about him. That I know. He was very cognizant of that and then told them, I'm not taking the main... I will be the assistant coach and she's going to be the coach. Already, Nathaniel, in my opinion, is starting off as a 10.
He was a 10, 10, 10. Yum, yum.
And I loved their banter so much. I had the dorkiest grin on my face every time they interacted with banter. It was amazing.
I love it because he loves her abuse.
I know. I know.
He's just like, maybe that's my kink. It's like, what did he say? I have a kink, shame kink or something?
Kink.
Oh, so funny.
Let's talk about Avery and Nathan's history. The reason why she has these... enemy, I don't like you vibes because of their history. We're laughing, but it's really not funny. It's actually quite sad.
They had a secret relationship for a summer, probably 3 months. They were 18.
This was a fast love connection.
A fast love, fell hard and fast. So in love, he left.
Yeah.
To go play.
He chose a job.
He went to play and go to college and then play in the major leagues. Breaks things off with her, and she was left just utterly devastated because that was not the plans that they had discussed. And so,
nor did he give her an
nobody knew.
Yeah.
Nobody knew. Yeah, he just leaves. And so she harbors a lot of hurt feelings from that. And
rightfully so.
Yeah. I mean, I do feel like it's been a little bit of time. We're in our 30s and you're 18, so maybe
still
not quite that strong. For me, I would put on the face of, you don't affect me at all.
Exactly.
But on the inside, I would be dying.
Yeah.
Like, you're
well, I love that he almost immediately addresses the fact I'm not the same person I was back then. And he really tries hard initially to sidestep over to the fact like this is who I am now. And even though I made a mistake in the past,
right,
I still would like a friendship with you. I'd like to, have at least some kind of semblance of a relationship with you, even if it's a friendship.
Well, she doesn't really have all the facts.
Correct.
She doesn't have all the facts as the real reason why he left. She doesn't know how his leaving impacted him.
Yeah.
And also, she has an opinion of him that is based on stories that have been written about him. And she just thinks this is who he is and believes it. And that's not really fair because we all know that not everything.
The media is going to spin things anyway.
So I just kind of felt like a lot of that was not fair. But she has no issues with his brothers.
That's true.
And family. Like, they're super close.
Yeah, because she worked on their family farm. That's how they met.
Yeah.
And so she has kind of built a connection with his family from way back when. So here they are now, and he's the only one that she still has a problem with.
She's so fond of the others.
Let's move over into a little bit more of a serious topic, and let's talk about Avery's mental health battles and the struggles that she faces with depression, and she does have suicidal thoughts at times. It really kind of kicks off for the reader when she wakes up in bed and she just does not have the mental capacity to leave that space.
That was very hard to read because depression is such a, I mean, unless you've ever experienced it, you don't understand quite the grip that it can take hold. And so to read that from that character, I thought Brittainy Cherry did a beautiful job of trying to portray the emotions of what somebody with depression feels like and how it can be debilitating. And it made me really sad because I just kept thinking, how does Wesley not see this? Because at the time she's still gonna be married.
Yeah, for 3 years.
Yeah. And so when she just doesn't even have the will to get up, it was just heartbreaking.
And we also learned that, you know, her motivation for getting up in those dark times, she's had to basically be the mother figure for her siblings and step in and knowing that they are relying on her. She really hasn't had an opportunity to process her depression in a way that she probably should have been able to had she not had that responsibility.
Right.
We've talked a little bit about Wesley and Drew and their inappropriate relationship. Nathan does witness a little bit of this himself when they come into the meat store where his family owns this meat store and they can purchase meat and things. And he witnesses some of this inappropriate
They were sharing an ice cream cone, Amy.
But they were like touching.
They were
just
touching,
like
and they were sharing
a little bit more intimate than you would have.
Ice cream cone.
That's very intimate.
Like, when he sees that, he's like, they licked the same cone. And Nathan's whole inner dialogue during that
was great.
And then his rage.
And then when he
calls him out on it. Yes, I
also love that he told Avery about it.
I did too. I was very thankful that he did not keep that under wraps. And
let's cut over to the wedding day. I gotta say, I'm laughing at myself because I just did not put this together. The scene where Wesley comes in to call off the marriage because he's going to outer space. Sarah, I laughed out loud because I thought, oh my gosh, I thought the rocket scientist was a joke this whole time, but he is legitimately a rocket scientist. And
my gosh.
I did not pick up on that. So when he
didn't pick up that all of his friends are
I knew they were
super
smart,
intelligent.
Yes, but I didn't realize he was legitimately a rocket scientist.
Okay.
Because it's a figure of speech we all use. Like,
oh no, I thought this dude is like full on like Big Bang Theory, like could totally roll with Sheldon and his gang.
So when he says he got a job offer to go to space, I laughed out loud, and then I thought, oh, okay. Okay.
Oh, he's serious.
I know. So it kind of tainted a little bit of this really emotional, heart-wrenching scene for Avery in my mind. So I'm going to let you talk about it from your perspective because I'm sure it's more realistic than the reaction
because I knew the whole time that he was an actual rocket scientist. Yes. Okay, sure. So she is just going to continue to get married, which I'm just thinking, how is this going to end? When it got to the wedding day, I didn't think she would run.
Well, even the night before when her sister asks her if he makes her feel, and she says, feel what? And her sister says, anything. And Avery thinks to herself, it's too late.
Yeah, she just was so comfortable. She kept thinking, will we work? Mm-hmm. But you could definitely tell that there wasn't a lot of depth to this relationship. There were so many things that it never should have gotten this far. So when she's fully ready and when he walked in,
I thought it was going to be Drew and Wesley being the reason.
I did too. I agree with you. I thought he was going to come and finally confess. Mm-hmm. I've really had feelings for her all this time. Yeah. And I, to which would have said, shocker. But when it was a job and he's upset with her because she's not fighting. And I'm just thinking, did you really expect her to fight for you guys? You're willing to leave her. You just said you can't do this. So what would you have said if she was willing to go? That, okay, let's get married? He was willing to call it off. He didn't address like, hey, before we do this, I have this opportunity. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He didn't handle it right at all.
He did not handle it right, especially. So it just was bizarre to me. And I was not surprised in the least. I just thought, well, you selfish jerk.
Well, and then
make that kind of decision.
In her inner dialogue, that was very sad to me when I finally got to past the rocket scientist part was that she's making this connection that she's getting left for him choosing a job, just like Nathan did to her the first time. And she's really starting to solidify her feelings of, I'm not worth staying for.
Yeah, she definitely has some major abandonment issues. And we haven't addressed it, but we, have to make mention that Avery lost her mom when she was 10, I think.
She was young.
And she lost her mom when Willow, her younger sister, was born during childbirth. She handled it. It was very traumatic for her. And so she felt like her mom left her. Then Nathan left her. Now Wesley's leaving her. And she just feels unworthy of anybody staying. Nobody's willing to stay for her. Nobody's choosing to stay. And so what I do love is that she gets out of there. And when everybody's looking for her, the only one who knows where to find her is Nathan.
I love that scene so much because it really shows the genuine connection that they had when they were younger. Even though they were young, they still had a genuine connection that has transcended through time to the present. And I love that connection that he still had for her. And I love that he offers to rescue her for the weekend with no intentions other than to getting her through a safe space and a weekend where she can decompress without the pressure of the small town gossip.
I know. When he takes her to his place and he runs her the bath and he has everything set for her, and then she just has that time where she can lose herself.
It's after the bath that they really start to kind of open, because she's had some wine to drink, so she's a little bit more fluid in what she says. Right. And it's here where she makes some comments about the dark thoughts that she has, and he has some genuine concern about her and her well-being and her mental state, rightfully so. And even the next morning after she slept off the wine and he asks her if he should be concerned for her. I love the transparency that they have together, even after all this time, and the feelings that she has of not liking him from what she's holding over is kind of on the back burner in this moment.
The way he cares for her and just takes care of her.
Sleeping outside the room to make sure that she was okay.
He was just, just swooning left and right for him. His character was...
He did all the right things.
He really did.
Let's talk about just this time of Avery and Nathan's relationship evolving. I mean, we talked about this weekend, but once they get back, they're coaching together, they're spending more time together, they decide that it's okay to be friends. First off, we need to mention the fact that she doesn't have a place to live now.
I know. I know. She tries to live in her sister's big bus, and it starts pouring, raining. It's like water. She's like, it's okay. It's good for it,
So she shows up at his place, and he lives on the family farm. And I love, Sarah, that he already has a welcome basket for her in the guest room.
That is mom made.
Yes. Anticipating her being there just in case.
Yeah.
And just makes it feel homey and welcoming for her, which I really think she needed. I also was thankful for the fact that she slept in the guest room. So there was no crossing of boundaries. She just is coming out of a really heartbreaking relationship. So I was really on the edge of, how soon is this going to progress?
I was too.
And how healthy is that going to be? But I was pleasantly surprised with the progress of their relationship and kind of evolving in the things. But I love that she just got thrown straight into the family dynamic. I mean, right away, it's Sunday fun day with the family. They're playing baseball together.
I love that so much, that all the cousins and the aunts and the uncles all come in, and that the loser has to make breakfast. I love that
whole thing.
She's on the winning team and then he has to make her breakfast. It makes me so happy. Oh, that just their family dynamic was just, I'm a sucker for these kind of family dynamics. And it
was a joy to watch their relationship just bloom and develop over the course of time. Let's move over to Cameron, one of the students on their team, and kind of how he's relating to both Avery and Nathan. He's got some issues at home with his own dad being a little bit of a drunk and not really supporting him in the way a father should. Let's talk about Cameron.
Cameron is going through a lot. His mom has passed away in the last year, and his dad is just he's so deep in his grief, which is why he's drinking, that he has just become a mean drunk, and he's not being a dad anymore. And so Cameron's going through a lot, which we get these little moments that there's a moment earlier on that Avery sees him. He's had a bad game. The dad is yelling at all these things during it. And she goes to him in the dugout and just kind of pats his back and stuff, but doesn't have that nurturing side.
Yeah.
Crying makes her uncomfortable. Whenever Cameron is still kind of having these moments, Nathan goes up to him and I love the scene where he tells him to dance it out.
Yes, me
and how
too.
the coach told him to dance it out. So there's this game that they're having and Cameron's having a hard time and they just dance it out and it just gets him out of his head. He loves the game again. In that moment, it's about the game and the love for the game. I love that they had this connection. I also love that. So it's like he relates to Avery because of the loss of the mom, but he relates to Nathan because Nathan's dad was abusive. And not good to him. That isn't something that really anybody kind of knows.
Yeah.
And so Nathan's able to kind of talk Cameron through that.
There's a scene where he ends up taking Cameron home and gets to witness a scene between Cameron and his dad. His dad has been drinking and Nathan doesn't feel comfortable leaving Cameron alone with his dad. So he brings him back to the house. I loved kind of a little bit of humor where Cameron's picking up on the fact that they live together.
Are you guys together?
Are you together? And then they say no. And then the next morning they're kissing and he walks in on it. Yeah. And she says, he's going to text the whole team right now. That made me laugh. So he stays with them for a little bit. I love that Nathan goes to Cameron's dad and has this heart-to-heart moment with him and connects even with his dad. His dad decides, he makes a choice to correct his actions and quit drinking, which I loved so much for Cameron, and finally having a father that was on the right side of the...
And Nathan is providing the help, the means to help, which is just, I can't even imagine what that felt like for Cameron because Nathan's giving him his dad back, in a way. And so I love that relationship that they had with him.
I do too. Speaking of Cameron, they get this opportunity for him to go to a university. Basically, it's the same university that Nathan went to. And there's some scouts that are wanting to check him out. And they were going to make a weekend of it. It was going to be Avery and Nathan, Cameron, and Cameron's dad. Well, Avery has to back out last minute because her sister's going into labor. So it ends up being Cameron's dad, Cameron, and Nathan. And we get there. And this is the moment where the coach that is checking Cameron out presents Nathan with a job opportunity. Let's talk about this.
I knew that he wasn't going to take it.
Oh, me too.
He has said too many things that his roots are at home and he wants to be at home. But this coach is not taking no for an answer. And he just kind of basically says, okay, I'll think about it, and leaves it at that. But Cameron overhears. Now, this was very frustrating to me because Nathan... There is a moment where it is brought up and then Nathan says, I guess I didn't realize, but Cameron specifically said to Nathan, how cool would that be that we'd be here together? So I don't know why he thought that wouldn't be something that he would bring up.
Same.
And at
I
that
knew
point,
it was going to be an issue immediately when the contract came in.
I was like, well, right there, that's going to
be the conflict.
But I wish that Nathan would have corrected him and said, yes, he made me an offer, but no, I am not going to be taking this offer. I'm home and I want to be home. And then it could have
very easily
resolved a lot of issues.
Instead, we get a massive miscommunication trope. I got to say, in this moment, I was angry at Avery.
I was too.
For jumping to conclusions just by seeing the contract instead of picking up the phone or waiting and ask. She goes and gets a new lease on a property or a new apartment or place, and I was livid with her in this moment.
When they have their big fight, when she tells him that she's leaving, he says, I want you to understand, I'm staying, I'm here. You're leaving me, points out that she was looking for an excuse. And she says, better now than 10 years down the line. I just thought, you have something good right in front of you and you can't even accept it.
Sabotaging.
However, it wouldn't be the story that it is.
You're right.
if it wasn't written this way, because Avery has never dealt with the grief and the trauma of losing her mom and all the issues that just throughout her life that she's obviously, I mean, it's not just that she lost her mom at such a young, tender age, but the feelings that came along with that loss.
She's had to suppress that for years.
She's suppressed it. She's angry. That's why she has the temper the way she does with people. There's so many things, not to mention she hasn't talked to anybody about her depression and what she walks through in that journey. She needed to work on herself.
100%. So I was still upset, but I was
upset too because, you know, that self-sabotage, but it's also
it could have been handled a little bit more in an adult way. Have a conversation.
And if you want to move out, move out.
Yeah.
take that time. Fine. But
communicate.
I also, again, we talked about, we didn't know how to feel about how quickly are they going to jump into any kind of relationship after Wesley and her ended their relationship. And I did feel like it was too soon. Mm-hmm. I felt like there's too many things that stacked up against you guys for failure.
Yeah.
And for this relationship to work, she has got to do some major therapy. He's already offered to pay for that. And I love also, we haven't touched on it, but they have those moments where they go out and they hit. Mm-hmm. And what did they call that?
The oldest sibling syndrome.
Yes.
Club meetings.
And I love that they have those club meetings. I don't know, the fact that he offered to get her some counseling to work through the depression and stuff.
Well, she doesn't take it at that time.
She doesn't. But when she walks out on him, whew.
I know.
And then tries to act like she's totally fine and he's dying inside.
I know. And they have to still coach for a few more weeks together. Oh, can you imagine the anguish of him having to see her and her pretending like everything's okay?
I can, but that would delve into my personal past. So.
Okay. Well, we won't jump into that then. We'll move on to...
It was with my husband. We're together now. Dustin and I are second chance romance story. So
we'll move over to Avery's conversation with her dad. I just want to say how much I freaking love her dad. I love the picnics that he brings. Oh, he is the epitome of a man that you want your daughter to date.
Yep.
And he set the perfect example for her growing up. And I love this man so much.
I know. You get the picnic baskets in the first book too, guys. Oh, so if you haven't read the first book, which you don't have to read to get this.
Yeah, because I didn't.
The family is just so incredible. And I can't wait for the third sister. But he did the picnic basket. And when they brought it out again, I was like,
yay, picnic baskets. So I love this conversation that she has with her dad about her stepping away.
Yeah, he really lays the truths out there for her. And I love that he's so honest with her that he can tell her this is really what's happening. This is what you're feeling. As brutal as that may be to hear, because it's hard to hear. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I feel like it resonates more with her when it comes from him. And their relationship, their bond that they have is really incredible because that's not her biological dad. Mm-hmm. He's just the man who's raised her. He's the man that took her mom and her in when she was a little girl. And so
I loved him.
He's just so good to her.
It does kind of create the stepping stone for her to reach out to Nathan. They meet back on the ball field and they have these little OSS club meetings again, and they set new ground rules for friendship. He offers, if nothing else, I want to be here to support you as a friend. And so they set these new ground rules. When they first started working together, they had a few rules that they set. Yeah. And here they lay out a few new ones. And one of my favorite parts of the scene is when she asks him for help. She's ready to get the help that she needs, go see a counselor and get some treatment and help through navigating through the life that she's lived and the things that she's had to deal with.
I love that they have this time. It was agony because the months keep going by.
Oh, I know. I thought of you in that moment, but it was necessary, and I knew that you would understand and agree.
It was absolutely necessary, and they were still seeing each other.
Yeah.
They had a really good friendship, but it is one of those things that you're like, if this was real life, you don't want them to fall in love with somebody else. You don't mean anybody.
But the connection was so strong. I never once questioned if they would fall for someone else.
I'm saying like if it was real life.
Yes. Yeah. I just thought, because they only see each other twice a month, and that I could feel like eternity.
Yeah.
When you're waiting. For those 2 times a month. But I thought it was necessary. Like you, I felt like seeing the months pass on the different chapters was gruesome.
I love, though, when she finally comes to, and it's, she's done the work and they can't wait anymore.
Let's round it out with their HEA.
Okay, well, how did you feel?
All the feels, all the warm, fuzzy feels. I loved that it was December, even though the time had passed. I don't know. It was full of emotion, and it was a big sigh of relief in my heart.
Mine too. I love the way Brittainy Cherry can take you on these journeys of these stories, these characters who a lot of times have heavy backstory or have heavy burdens that they carry, this weighted down, but yet her stories never feel that way. They always feel a little bit light to me because you just fall so in love with these characters. And this was another couple that I just fell in love with. I loved everything about Nathan. I also love...
He's like 10 out of 10.
We didn't even address the fact that she finally finds out the reason why he left.
Yes.
So we should do that.
Yeah, let's do it.
The reason why he left is we acknowledge the fact that his dad was abusive and he was not going to go play. That baseball was the only thing he did, that he tried to have a strong bond with his dad. And he tells his dad, I'm not going to play. I'm not going. And his dad dies that night. And he feels this, pressure, this guilt. His family is also not doing well financially. And he feels the weight of the world on his shoulders of, I need to take care of my family. And he makes a decision.
I wish he had communicated that to her.
To say. What I wish would have happened was he would have just told her. But he was so angry and he was grieving and he was hurt and he was 18.
Yeah. That's fair.
So when you say it, that way, that was my whole thing.
We went to the story of
holding it against him. I'm like, the dude was 18. Yeah. Come on. Yeah. Let's not be held liable for any of our actions at 18. Good grief. They got their happily ever after, and it was so beautiful. That wraps up our discussion of the problem with players. Thank you all for joining us on this episode. We hope you enjoyed it and want to continue the discussion with us. We'd love to hear from you. What were your favorite parts of the story? Hit us up on Instagram at Postbook Depression Podcast or on Facebook in our Postbook Depression discussion group. You can also email us at postbookdepressionpodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, keep reading.